Okay, this is the Milgram experience on obedience to authority. Stanley Milgram started the Milgram experiment on obedience to authority in 1961 after World War II. The fact that Hitler's defense was that he was simply following instructions when he ordered the deaths of millions of Jews sparked Milgram's interest. The 40 participants in the experiment were random from a newspaper ad stating that participants would be paid $4.50 for participating. Milgram developed a shock generator with shock levels starting at 30 volts and increasing in 15-volt increments all the way up to 450 volts. The many switches were labeled with terms including slight shock, moderate shock, and danger severe shock. The final two switches were labeled simply with an ominous XXX. Each participant took the role of teacher, who would then deliver the shock to the student every time they answered a question wrong. While the participant believed that he was delivering real shocks to the student was actually a partner in the experiment who was pretending to be shocked. If at any time the participant didn't want to continue with the shocks, the authority figures would pressure him to carry on. The experimenters would say things such as, "The experiment requires you continue," so that they would proceed with the experiment. Milgram was shocked to find that the minority did not question authority. As a result, 65% of the participants stayed obedient to the experimenters and were willing to progress all the way up to 450 volts. Participants averaged 83 volts, and only 2.5% of participants used the full 450 volts available. This shows that most participants were good, average people and not evil individuals. They only obeyed under force. Wow, what an interesting experiment. Now tell me the biopsychosocial approach to that one, Dr. Dre. Of course I can tell you the biopsychosocial approach to that. The biological influence to this experiment would be the functioning of the participant's body during the experiment, also the auditory and visual senses. Hearing and seeing could have very well affected what the participant was experiencing. If you were to hear people screaming, then you'd probably be more likely to quit the experiment. If you see danger, XXX shock, you probably would also be less likely to carry on with the experiment because of what you see. The psychological influence has to do with the person's thoughts. So, what is the participant thinking when they are shocking the person in the other room? The participant is thinking that they are physically hurting the person getting shocked, when in fact the other person isn't really being shocked. There are many thought processes that could be going through the participant's head. The participant may think that they are doing the experiment for the sake of research, which is usually perceived as a good cause, so they may continue through all the shocks. Also, the fact that the experiment was held at Yale, if they think Yale is prestigious and safe, they most likely would carry on as well. The social cultural influence would have to do with the status of the participant. If he felt like he was in a lower class than the people running the experiment or the researchers, he obviously is going to listen to Milgram because it coincides with society. For example, poor or lower class people will listen to people who are seen as higher in class or education. If you were to sign up for the experiment, you would probably listen to the person who has authority over you. The human race typically respects authority, just as a student respects a teacher because of authority. Also, Yale is perceived as an authoritative university with prestigious reputation. People of lower socio-economic status will listen to people who are seen as more successful, higher educated, or higher class. Wow. I don't know about you guys, but I have learned so much from the lovely Dr. Dre. Wow, I need to go pull out my psychology book again and just read out all these things that Mr. Heath taught us, because that is so interesting. I'm so glad Dr. Dre could join us on the show today. I'm so glad that she was able to come. Aw, Kristen, I'm so glad I could be on the Bet You Didn't Know That show too. I'm so glad I could help you guys really understand what these experiments were about in psychology. Happy psychology! See you next time on the Bet You Didn't Know That show. Bye!